Items you're going to need for your chicks. We're going to need a chick feeder without the top, and there's a reason for this. In just a minute, I'll show you. I don't agree with these sometimes. When they start to get a little bit bigger, and the food gets low on the inside, and they stick their head through these little holes, and they try to get it, their heads get stuck. I actually had a Shamo get his head stuck in there, and he had a big old swelling pop up on the back end of his head, and he ended up dying because of this particular one. But for baby chicks, for little peeps, it's okay. Next up, you're going to get old-fashioned oats, and this is just, this is a Food City brand or Walmart or something. I don't know. It's cheap, just cheap oats, oatmeal, and get you a chick waterer. Now the chick waterers are about 1/2 inch wide in diameter. When you buy them, it's not the ones that are sitting out about 1 inch, 2 inches. You don't want those. I know what a lot of people are thinking. Oh, well, bigger tray, more water. Yeah, well, that is true, but the chicks can't drown in this. They can drown in the big ones. I've had it happen a bunch of times. That's why I switched over to this. The smaller ones work best for the peeps. So what we're going to do, I got one more item to show y'all. This is a puppy training pad. This works the absolute best in the bottom of your chick box. These absorb, if they spill any water, it absorbs it. It absorbs wet poop. It doesn't let anything start to smell or stink, and when you're done, you just pick it up, fold it over, throw it away, put you another one down. It's very fast, very simple, and it's easy to clean up. So the next thing that we're going to do is we're going to get a coffee measure. That's all this is. It's just a little regular standard coffee measure. This is what you're going to do when your chicks first hatch. And I actually have some upstairs hatching right now. You're going to fill your 1/4 ounce or your 1 quart of water up. You're going to fill that up, and you're going to take some sugar. And you're going to measure out one cup of that, and it goes into your water. This is for the first few days. Put sugar in there for the first few days. That'll help their systems get up and going. It'll help them start moving a little bit, and it'll be good for them. So the next thing we're going to do is we're going to put our oats in our pedestal here. And this right here, we're just going to crush them up. We're not going to do the whole thing like this, just for the reason of this right here gives the little weaker ones something easier to chew on, instead of trying to cram one of these whole flakes down their throat, which they can. It's just not recommended whenever they're, 1 day to 3 days old. So this is why I grind mine up for the first, for about the first 3 days. I always make sure everybody's eating, and once I'm sure that everybody's eating real good and everything, I'll start crushing up less and less and less, and just introduce them to the whole flakes on their own. So that's why you don't want the thing on top, by the way, so you can pour it in easy. But you just want to just kind of tap this up. Now, for the first few days, this is what you want to keep your chicks on. And as you all notice, I pulled this off from the top. A lot of people have trouble removing these from the metal ones anyway. All you have to do is take your thumbs, put on the inside, put your fingers around on the rims, and push straight down, and it pops right off. No problem. So, anyway, that's what you want to do for your chicks for the first 3 days. You want to keep them on this stuff right here, this oatmeal. It'll fill them up fast. So if they don't have a lot of energy to eat, and they just eat a little bit, this oatmeal will swell up in their belly, and it'll make them full. So they'll get their energy that they need to continue. Your sugar water, like I said, you want to do this for about 3 days to a week. You can, I put it in there for the first few days. Normally by then everything's up and going real strong. And your pea pads. Pea pads, oatmeal, sugar water, and that's how I start my chicks out. That's their diet plan. I try not to put too many chicks in each box, but I would probably say 15 chicks per box is probably the limit that needs to be per box, and that's pushing it. So just keep in mind that your animals have a very limited space, and the more you put in there, the more stressed they're going to be. So you want to eliminate as much stress as possible, because then that's when they're going to start picking on each other, plucking feathers, and tackling each other and ripping each other to shreds. And you will have some chicks die. That is unavoidable. Once you hatch your chicks, there's tons of things that can go wrong that you don't physically see on them. When they're inside that egg in the early stages, you're sitting here rotating it, turning it every day, and organs and stuff can get crossed up, and you can have internal problems, not just external but internal. On top of crooked toes, straddle legs, crooked necks, which are also called stargazers. You can have things like that happen, and that's mainly from moisture problems and insufficient turning. But it's not avoidable completely by any means, by anybody. It happens. So once they hatch, and 4 or 5 days later you have one die, it's part of the game. If it happens, it happens. For those of you that have children that small kids that are planning on raising some chicks for Easter, or any holiday or something like that, y'all think, or just a project, y'all think it would be a good idea to raise some chicks, some ducks, whatever. You have to make peace with the fact that some of them are gonna die. The best thing you can do is just keep a clear mind about it, and go on and get as many of them to live as you possibly can. Adjust your temperature inside your box. By the way, you want your temperature to be about anywhere from 85 to 90 degrees would be perfect for chicks. I don't use a heat lamp because I keep my peat box inside, so it's automatically 69 to 70 degrees, and the light just allows them, they'll get a little bit of extra heat off that light. So my box stays about 85 to 90 degrees at one time. I got a 60 watt light bulb in there. Sometimes I use a 100 watt. But anyway, the children, you probably don't want them to see dead baby chicks. So in the mornings when you get up, make sure that you're the first one to go and check in that box. Make sure you're the one that gets rid of it before the kids see it, because that'll cause a huge scene. When you do set your eggs, it's very important that you don't set too many per incubator. If you have the styrofoam incubators, you don't want to set too many eggs in one incubator, because if you set more than one egg, or if you set more than in a standard size Little Giant incubator, you probably don't want to go over about 2 dozen. Anything more than that, it's going to cause temperature problems and temperature distribution among the eggs. If the eggs are too close, one of them's going to get hotter than the other one. They're both going to have a cold spot on the inside of it where they're blocking heat. It causes a lot of problems. But you want to keep that at about 2 dozen per incubator. But I mean, that's on a larger scale if you're hatching a lot. Anyway, that's pretty much the gist of it. We're going to cover all the other stuff as soon as the chicks pop out. I know for a fact I've got one cracking the egg. Okay, so this is the way I set my chick box up. Got the pea pad down. We've got the water in the center of everything. And we have the food over at the side. Don't be surprised if your chicks poop in your food. It happens. As you can see, I got a standard white light bulb. And these lamps right here, you can get these at Lowe's for like $2 or $3. You can get them at Walmart for the same price. I have a mess load of these lamps. I love them. So anyway, as you can see, I don't have my lamp horribly far away, but I mean, it's enough to where if you put your hand down here, you can feel the heat. It wouldn't hurt to move it a little bit closer for the first day. As soon as they come out of the box and you put them, or as soon as they come out of the incubator and you put them in the box, it wouldn't hurt to put them a little bit closer, and it also wouldn't hurt to cover this top. I normally take a towel and lay across over the top. It'll help keep some of the heat in, and that'll keep the temperature up and just kind of, slowly introduce them into the temperature and environment that you're wanting them in, instead of just dropping them off in Antarctica and letting them freeze and say sink or swim. So anyway, this is the setup that I have. This is just an old Rubbermaid box. You can get these at Walmart. You can get them at Lowe's. I can't tell you how many chicks that I've raised up in this box. I've raised up hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of chicks in this box alone. I have a couple more out in the cock house that I'll have to bring in here in a little bit. I've got a bunch of eggs about to hatch, so I'll have the walkway here lined up with chick boxes. But anyway, this is one thing you're gonna have to watch out for. This happened the first year I was using this box. If you're using a heat lamp, an actual heat lamp, you want that thing to be up here, down to the box. You want it to be sitting up about this high. Well, my metal ring was sitting right here on my box, and as you can see, it melted my box. It is a fire hazard. You definitely want to watch that. I've also had lamps fall over into the box and melt my waterers. That's another thing you got to watch. Make sure you have them secured. As you can see on mine, I have a great big old tray here, and I got it clipped off onto it. That's not going to fall unless somebody helps it. So That's what I would suggest, finding a good secure location to actually clip this off onto, instead of trying to, rest it on there or set it at a funny angle or anything like that. So anyway, that's the chick box setup, and this is where my chicks go once they hatch. After they've dried out, this is where they go. Alright guys, this is about six hours after coming out of the incubator. He's dried out, he's nice and happy. The other ones, I believe that the other eggs aren't any count, I didn't collect them until the last minute, and they were sitting outside in the cold for about 5 or 6 days. I got one more in there shaking. I don't know if he'll hatch yet or not, but this is the only one that hatched on time. As you're going to notice, I'm going to zoom in here a little bit, his back still looks wet and he looks really wiry. This will happen when they have extra fluid in the egg. The whites of the egg is what causes that look. It can be removed and taken off by a warm, damp wash rag or a paper towel. Just wet it a little bit and slowly wipe it off. They'll be wet, so make sure you get them underneath the light as quick as possible. When you introduce your chicks to their new box, the first thing that you're going to have to do is show them where their water is. Now the way you do that, I'm going to get a hold of him real quick. The way you do that is you pick him up, or her, you grab their head. If they'll let you grab them, you grab their head and you dip it in the water. Just the tip of their beak, and you show them where that water is, and then turn them loose. They'll eat on their own. They'll naturally start pecking around. They'll go, oh, well, that's food, and they'll learn really quick. After about 3 or 4 days of being in here, you want them to give them some stuff to play with. Happy chicken is a winning chicken, and having a happy chicken starts from day one. Make sure you do absolutely everything you can to make them completely comfortable. Remember, we put the sugar in the water, we grinded up the oats, and anyway, I'm getting sidetracked. Okay. About 3 or 4 days after they hatch, they're going to get a lot more active, and they're going to start peeping a lot more, jumping around, running around the box, running into the sides, jumping, hitting the light and stuff. What I like doing, just to kind of keep them entertained, take you some fishing string, tie to each end of the box, and take a ribbon and just let the ribbon dangle down into the box. Make sure that there's no excess string hanging off of the ribbon, because the birds will get tangled up in it and they'll tangle their feet up and stuff, and they won't be able to get to the water or the food. And if you don't keep a close eye on your chicks, they'll die from that. But anyway, that really keeps them entertained. They'll chase each other around with the ribbon. It's really, really funny. But anyway, here's this is the first one that hatched. He hatched on time. He's the only one that hatched on time. The rest of them are probably bad eggs. So I've got one in there rocking back and forth. Don't know if he'll hatch. But anyway, another quick tip: if you have a chick that's dried out but isn't fully developed, where they're connected onto the egg, it's their umbilical cord, it's below their butt, you'll see a bubble hanging out, and it looks pretty gross. Don't cut it off, don't pop it, don't try to shove it back in there, leave it alone. You take the bird, leave it in the incubator, and let it dry. Once it's completely dried out, they'll finish developing sometimes, and they'll be okay. If you put them in the box with the other chicks while that's still hanging out, you're going to find out very fast that chicks can turn into cannibals very fast. They'll sit there, peck it. It starts to bleed. Oh, look, it's red. And they're going to sit there and they're going to keep pecking. and because the other bird's screaming and hollering and getting them all excited, and eventually you're going to have a dead bird. So that's very important to go ahead and keep the ones that ain't fully developed inside the incubator until they're finished. I would suggest give them a little bit of water if they have to stay in there more than 12 hours. I would suggest give them a little bit of water. Do it just the way I showed you all there. Dip their head in, let them get a couple drinks, and shut the incubator. You have about a 50-50 chance, if they're not fully developed, of them living. So don't get too attached to them. The name of the game is chicken breeding, and part of the game is you're gonna have chicks die. This dude right here, he's healthy as can be. He's just very tired from fighting his way out of an egg for 2 days. But you know what? I mean, he's healthy. He's healthy as can be right now, visually. But I don't know if there's something internally wrong that might have messed up during the hatching. He hatched on time. He came out peeping, running around the incubator, flopping around. He's normal in every sense, but you don't know. I might come out here tomorrow and he'll be dead. Don't know. But anyway, that's how you introduce them into their box. You'll notice that if I had more to put in here while making this video, I'm trying to get this video out as quick as I can. I've got about 3 or 4 dozen eggs about to hatch here in a few weeks, but I want to get this video out before then. When you put a bunch of chicks in here, you're going to notice that they're all going to crowd underneath that light. This can be a problem. Chicks will smother each other. If they're sitting on top of each other and everything, crawling underneath each other, it'll kill them. And the way you fix that is move half the chicks into a different box so everybody can get a little bit of that light. Move them into a different box, and definitely make sure they have a little shaded area to go to. Like you can see half the box is lit and the other half isn't. Make sure they have a little area to go to get away from the light. You don't want to cook them. And that's exactly what heat lamps will do, especially if they're inside. If they're inside and they're already in a comfortable temperature that's to you comfortable, then just put your regular light bulb in it and move it kind of close. I didn't think that the light was close enough the way I had it, because I discovered that that's actually a 20-watt bulb instead of a 60 or 100 watt. So I moved it down a little bit closer into the box, and it's fine in there now, and he is completely content and happy. And I mean, as you can see, he's pretty alert and curious about everything. I'll give him something to play with here in a little bit, but anyway, that's how you introduce them into their new box. Like I said, don't put too many per box. The more that's in there, the worse off they're going to be. Make sure that you change out these pads at least twice a week. At least. If I had 10 chicks in here, this pad would be ready to change by tonight. They're cheap. They're cheap. So you can get plenty of them, and like I said, they're a breeze to clean up. There's nothing wet left behind. It absorbs everything. You just fold it up and fold your new one down. Move all the chicks over to one side, put down half of it, and then fold it down, pull the chicks over to this side and fold the rest of it down, and set your food and water back in there, and it's ready to go. But anyway, off to the next part of the video. Okay guys, in this section of the video I'm going to be talking about dry incubation. Dry incubation is a method of putting your eggs in an environment that's extremely moist until the water dries up. Once the water dries up, you don't add any more water. A lot of people, when they get these steel air incubators, they use the center part and they keep it full of water throughout the entire incubation. what dry incubation does is you fill up this whole entire bottom area. You tape up the holes, or you can fill them in with caulk or what have you, gum, whatever works for you. You fill in the holes so they don't leak. Once you do this, fill up the entire bottom tray and the center trays with water. You want it to be warm water for obvious reasons. You don't want to fluctuate your temperature. But in this video, I'm going to keep this thing open until I get my eggs set. I like having at least two thermostats in the incubator at all times. I use one of the standard old mercury thermometers, and then I use an electric one. The electric one allows me to maintain the moisture levels and the temperature at the same time. When you're using these, you have to make sure that your electric one is sitting on top of the eggs, because that's what's going to be the main heat that's touching your eggs. You want to make sure this is sitting on top, and you want this sitting on bottom. So this right here will show you what temperature it is at the bottom, and this will show you what temperature it is at the top of your eggs. The whole method behind this is once the water dries up during your incubation period, you don't add any more. You just keep incubating them until 3 days before they hatch. 3 days before they hatch, you stop turning and you add water. You want your moisture levels, once you add water, those last 3 days, you want your moisture level to be pretty high, about 85% to 95%. The high moisture rate will allow your birds to break through the eggs a little bit easier, but it'll also cause them to aspirate on the fluids, and that's when they get fluid in their lungs, and then ultimately they'll drown. But anyway, we're going to go ahead and set some eggs. For those of you that don't know, it takes 21 days for a chicken egg to hatch. It takes 28 days for a duck egg to hatch, and it takes 31 plus days for a turkey to hatch. So what I've got here, I've got some of my long legs eggs. So we're going to set some of these in here to get a few of these for this year. And it doesn't really matter what order or how you set them in here, because the way I turn my eggs, they all get cluttered up anyway. Another good way that you can keep your eggs, keep everything from getting confusing in your hatch, is you can get these things called mesh hatching bags. They're hatching bags that you can take your eggs and put inside the bags while they hatch, and that'll keep all your chicks together that are one breed. You have them, you can just pick up that bag and go, okay, well this is this breed, and you can mark them all, and then put them in your brooder, and then do the same thing with the other ones. We've got quite a few eggs to put in here. You just want to make sure that you don't completely overcrowd it to where you have no room at all to roll your eggs. You want it to have at least an 1/8 inch between each egg. So as long as you have an 1/8 of an inch of playroom between all your eggs, you should be pretty good. But that's kind of the whole gist behind getting your eggs set. You want them to be set, and you want to set as many as you possibly can. But you never want to set so many that you can't maintain a constant temperature over all the eggs, and you don't want so many in there that when you turn them they break. So it would be a really good idea to kind of figure out what your capacity is in each incubator before you gather up so many eggs that you can't set them. I've got in this incubator right here, I'm gonna be putting in quite a few eggs, and if you've all noticed, I've been putting the eggs in one by one, and the purpose of that is don't drop the eggs, because each one of these is a show winner. they're all very, very expensive birds. This is what breeders. This is the time of the year that breeders wait for, is hatching season, and you can't hatch eggs if you bust them. So you want to, like I said, about 1/8 of an inch between each egg would be fine. You know, if a few of them are touching, that's cool. But you know, if they're all touching each other, and they can't, and the eggs can't breathe, so to speak, you're not gonna have a very good hatch. But what this will do, having this many eggs in the incubator, this will increase your hatch rate. So like I said, I like to take just your standard thermometer. When you get one of these incubators, it'll come with one of these. If you get the Hoover, it'll come with the plastic guard. Everything will be plastic on it, and it'll be a nice little starting thermometer for you. These do go bad after a couple of years, after a few years of use. You got to replace these. This one right here has actually only been used for one season, so this one right here is still good. But once they get so old, they start to get inaccurate. So this is definitely something you don't want to be inaccurate with. So when you start to set your thermostats and stuff up, just make sure that it's up to date and it's good. Now, if you all can see how I have my eggs, there's a few of them touching, but I mean there's breathe room all around in through here, so that all the eggs can breathe. I'm gonna set the thermostat on top of this incubator, and this right here is pretty much gonna tell me everything I need to know here in about about 4 or 5 hours. You're gonna have to adjust your temperature, even though you have it set on exactly 99 degrees. When you put these eggs in here, it's not going to stay 99 degrees for the whole time. When you put eggs in there, it takes up area, and the area that it takes to to heat one of these decreases. So when you set your eggs, you always want it to be just a tad bit lower than exactly 99 degrees. You're going to notice that the temperature will actually drop in here before it rises. That's fine. What it is it's the heat absorbing into the egg. Once the egg maintains a constant temperature of, hopefully between 99 and 101, once it maintains that temperature, everything will start to kind of plateau out, and then you can do your fine adjustments. But don't do any adjustments until all the eggs are completely heated throughout. That's very, very important. And another thing, make sure that you have your holes covered. Once make sure everything's nice and set, and make sure to remember, every time you pass these eggs during dry incubation, every time you pass these eggs, turn them. It don't have to be exactly in the morning or exactly at night. Every time you pass this thing, turn them. I mean, don't be religious about it, like literally every time you pass it. But, pass it 4 times a day, turn them 4 times a day. Don't get ridiculous with it and turn them 20, 30 times a day. But, I mean, you see what I'm saying. It's a very easy way to incubate. It's the best way that I've found out how to incubate, and I would definitely recommend it for anybody. Fill up the bottom tray. That's it. 3rd day that they're about to hatch, 3 days before they hatch, you want to put about 4 cups, 3 to 4 cups of water in it, and that should bring the moisture level up. Like I said, you don't want your moisture level too high or they'll aspirate and your hatch rate will be awful. You don't want it too low or they won't be able to get out of the egg and your hatch rate will be awful. So it's a delicate procedure, and it's gonna, I mean, it'll take a little bit of practice to get used to, but the first time I tried dry incubation, I was hooked on it. Everything worked out perfect. I actually hatched 100% in that set of eggs that I had, and ever since then I've always had a hatch rate that's been over 75%. If the eggs are any count, if the eggs are fertile and good, over 75% without a doubt. The bigger hatcheries use dry incubation, and they're big dry incubation machines, and they get hatch rates of 98%. But I don't have a dry incubation machine, so I have to do it exactly the way they do it in my machine. But like I said, dry incubation is definitely the way to go in these. Make sure that the eggs are spaced at least 1/8 of an inch apart. Make sure that you know the capacity of your incubator before you set your eggs. Make sure that you have your temperature set just a little bit lower than where it needs to be before you set your eggs. When you add your water in and your eggs, it takes up area. If it's setting exactly at 99 degrees, then it's probably going to get hotter. It's going to get up to probably about 102 to 105 degrees. Another thing is, we're going to turn some eggs real quick because it's about that time. I'm going to set my camera up here, and I'll show you all how I turn my eggs one more time. We're going to lift this up. I'm going to go ahead and move this off. Be alright to keep off there for a minute. And as you can see in here, I have, I think I set 3 dozen in here. But all you want to do, this is all I do. And I did dry incubation on these. All the eggs, most of the ones in here are good to go and they're fertile. You can feel if an egg's fertile. They'll have just a little bit more weight to them than a standard egg. A good way to figure that out is pick them up, and if they just feel kind of fragile and not real solid, chances are they're probably bad. Take you a light and candle it. Click it on and hold it over it. If you see a yolk moving around in there, the egg ain't no count. You want to check your eggs about 2 weeks after you set them. After about 2 weeks, they'll be ready to go. And then you check them, and you'll see veins. You might see a couple of chicks moving around inside. You can see, you might just see a yolk floating around. If you see a yolk floating around with no veins, it ain't no count. Go ahead and toss it, because if that thing builds up pressure and busts and it's rotten, it's going to stink the whole house up. But anyway, that ends this section of the video. Alright guys, this is going to be the brooder section of the video. Once your chicks hatch, you're going to want to use a brooder. Now, there's several different types of brooders that you can use to start out with. They need to be in an area that is closed in and they can get plenty of heat on them. So, what we have here, this is one of the newer brooders that I have. As you can see, it's not completely done on the back yet. I'm going to use that this year. All you have to do the same thing that you did on the box. As soon as they hatch, put you some dog pads down in here and hang you a light up. I've actually got a screw right there above the wire that it's a little hook I can hook my light on, and it'll heat this whole little box. Plus it's inside the cock house, so that's definitely a good thing to have it inside when you're talking about younger chicks. Here's another one. This right here would be a great outside brooder. I actually had this one sitting outside for quite a while, and then I decided to go ahead and move it in. This one's probably a little bit dirty, but anyway, that's the idea of it. Make sure you have wire covering up your light, because you don't want your chicks to get in there and get burned by the light. So I've got wire covering up the light, and all that's left in here is just food from last year pretty much. There's a couple of bits of poop, but I'll get that cleaned out before I put any chicks in here. As you can see, I've got half the sides covered up. This allows the heat to stay in there better. The bottom's completely open, other than my trash can below it. And I put the trash can below it to gather up all the poop and stuff that falls through, because I don't have a tray for it. I did have a tray for it once upon a time, and I ended up breaking it. But anyway, this right here is the kind of brooders that you want to use. When you're using a brooder like this, a fully covered and boxed in brooder, you definitely don't want to overheat it, and you can. If it's during the summer, this is the type of brooder that you would want to use outside with a very low watt light bulb in it, for throughout the duration of the day, just so they don't get too hot. The wire that I have in the bottom of it is actually gutter. This is gutter guard wire. It's extremely small. It's almost like a screen. But what this does right here, this is really easy on their feet when they're young. 1/4-inch wire will actually cause their feet to get deformed up from standing on it for so long. Their feet will get deformed, they'll get cuts on them, and they'll have tender feet. But this right here keeps that from happening. Once they get a little bit older, they're going to go in here first. And then once they get a little bit older, they'll go in here. And once they go in here, they'll stay in here until they're about 3 months old. And then they'll go to the outside brooder. And that's going to be the next section that I talk about, is the outside brooders. This is the first step of brooders that you want to take. When you're first getting started, these right here, the type of wood you have to get, it's plywood. Don't use OSB. The OSB will rot very fast. Get you some plywood, treat it, and then, you can paint it or do whatever you want to do with it. But plywood's what you have to go with. I built this brooder right here for $75. Done and done. This one right here, believe it or not, this brooder was exactly the same as that one, and I had an idea, and I went to town on it. All this right here was actually the top, like this right here is. This was the top part of it, and then I had some extra wood, and I put around the base of it, and then I framed it in, and then put some wire across it, and that's all that. I mean, that's all that is. It's just I took that box, flipped it upside down. This right here is the sides of the box right here, and this top part is still the top. But all I did was frame it up. I screwed the top down to the legs, and this right here is the sturdiest table that I've got in this whole place. And my reasoning behind this is I look for functionality. As long as something has multiple uses, it's worth building. This right here has multiple uses. As you can see, I use it as a table, and I use it as a brooder. This one, I use it as a table and as a brooder. This right here, this is healing boxes and a table. My keep boxes is also used as a table. I also have a little workout station right here. But recently I had a hen laying in here, and I put up a little box for her so she'd lay some more eggs, and then I grabbed her up and threw her in a pen. It was a pure Albany hen, and she was going to town laying some eggs, so I just figured I'd go ahead and get me some pure Albanies this year. But anyway, that's kind of like the reasoning behind the way that my brooders are built. I like multiple uses. The more uses they have, the better they are. The same thing with my outside brooders. I'll show you those. The ones that are outside are for about 3 months old chicks. I got one that's in pretty rough shape. It's about time to get rid of it. Then I've got one of them that's brand new that I just built this year, and it's probably the way I'm going to build them from now on. But anyway, I'll go ahead and go out and show you all the outside brooders for 3 months old to 6 months old chicks. Okay, we're back behind the cock house right now, and this is my big brooder. And this one right here, I do have chicks in it right now with their mama. That comes back to my functionality. I enjoy having things that are functional in different ways, just more ways than just one. In this case, I let the hen hatch the babies, and then I moved them in here in the pen. This right here does have 1/4 inch wire on the bottom of it. It's not good for their feet, but as you can see, everything else in here is, it's a pretty nice little setup. You know, they've got their heat lamp. The red bulbs are outside bulbs. I would not suggest putting a red bulb inside, but if you do, just make sure you keep it back as far as you possibly can, to where, you know, just adjust the heat. But anyway, this is my newer brooder, and it's working great. And if you see the center here, I can also slide a piece of wood down into the center of this to keep them from going into this section. And I can put chicks over here and chicks over here and keep them separated. If I have, you know, max amount over here, max amount over there, and I don't want them all crowding in here at night, I can slide it down through there, put me another light over there, and it works like that. But anyway, that's kind of the brooder style that I like. And like I said, this is probably going to be the kind that I do from now on. It's a pretty good brooder. It's got a couple little flaws here and there, but it's just cosmetic. I can fix it up. It hasn't even been painted yet. I still got the tags on it. But anyway, this right here is a really good brooder to use for when your hens start laying and they hatch some chicks. You throw your hen in there and it'll hold your hen just as well as it'll hold the chicks. The only problem is, the only thing I'm going to do different on this that I haven't got around to yet is I'm going to cut the top right through here, and I'm going to put another hinge there and another hinge there, so I can open up the sections separate from each other. Because now if you open up the sections, if you open this whole thing up, the chicks will fly out over there while you're over here putting water and feed in. I just boarded this up with some scrap wood I had laying around, and just to, you know, kind of keep the heat in there. The whole back end of it, if you can see, it's completely boarded up, and the front end here I had to board it up. But this right here is going to hold the heat in plenty enough to keep them warm. If they get wet, they're still gonna die. So you have to remember that, just for the fact of the whole bottom's open and the wind blows from this direction. So when it blows, it's going to hit the cock house, and then it's going to rotate. It hits the cock house right there, and then it flips. It goes up inside there. So I put a piece of wood there to kind of keep the wind out just a little bit as they're sleeping at night. But as you can see, this is a pretty solid built brooder. for your 3-month-old chicks up to about 6 months. Once they start to get pretty big and they start to weigh that wire down a little bit, you want to turn them loose. Go ahead and just flip them out. And then, which brings me to my next thing. Let me get over here to it. This right here, this is where my babies go at night. And apparently last night they broke the roost pole. They're getting awful big. They ain't really babies anymore, but they're still my babies. So, anyway, this is kind of like this is just a regular fly pen. You just want to put, ow. You just want to put a roost in here for them, which I'm going to have to do today. I'm going to have to do it again today. Put a roost in here for them, and they'll go in here at night. When you first turn them loose, put a light in here, and it don't have to be a heat lamp or anything, but just put a little light in here. You can buy blue bulbs from Co-op that you can hang up in the corners, and it'll light up this whole thing, and they're going to come in here and roost just because it's they're attracted to that light. Just set that up and you won't have any problem with them going in here to roost. But now they're roosting up in a tree right there, and they're about ready to be picked up. But anyway, that's what I do with my chicks. I'll leave them running loose until they start crowing and starting to fight the other babies running loose. Then it's time to pick them up. But anyway, that's all about the brooders. Here's what we're going to talk about right now. We're going to talk about medicines that you give your chicks. So we're going to start off with the wormer. A lot of people say you don't need to worm your chicks. Don't worm your chicks. Don't worm your chicks. Bullcrap. Worm your chicks. You just have to know what to use and how to use it. This right here is Worm Off. This is pepperzine dihydroxychloride. And they come in little blue pills. You can order them. You can order them from a vet. You can order them from. You might even be able to get them at Walmart. I'm not exactly sure. I order mine off of Oak Ridge Game Fowl. But anyway, that's where I order mine from. But they come in a little blue pill, as you can see right here. The way you give this is you take a standard chick waterer, you know, one of the smaller ones, you know, plastic tubs or plastic bottles, and you're going to crush this up. And you crush it up, put it in the water. You want to do this once they're about a month old. Would be a good idea to go ahead and do that. And that'll go ahead and it'll clean them out. For the first couple days, they'll be a little sluggish from getting wormed. After that, you're going to see their temperament and everything. It's going to go way up. They're going to start running around. They'll have a lot more energy. They'll be a lot more peppy and happy and everything. This takes care of, because this is pepperzine, it doesn't take care of all types of worms. It just takes care of, you know, tapeworms pretty much. And that's what you got to worry about when they're in a box with all that poop and everything. They've got poop on the ground, they're eating food off of it, and that's, you know, worms are a big deal. You don't really have to worry too much about worming them every month after that, or even every 2 months. Once they go out in the yard, that's when you have to start worrying about worming them. Once you start worming them and everything and getting them set up and getting them moving real good, that's when you have to start worming them because they're on the yard. But anyway, that's the worm off pepperzine dihydroxide. And then the next thing we're going to go to is the nutrition supplements. This stuff is awesome. This is some really good stuff. The way that you give about 3 drops per 6 ounces of water. So when you give this, you don't want to add too much. You can adjust however much you need it. But if you put too much in there, it's going to cause them to have diarrhea. It'll cause them to get dehydrated, and they'll ultimately end up dying from dehydration. But when you use this correctly, it helps. It just does wonders for your babies. Like I said, about 3 drops is all you need. You don't want the water to turn black from this stuff. You can put it in there so thick that the whole entire water will look black or really dark brown. So what you want to do is just add about 3 drops. You can do it every day. You can do it every 2 days. You can do it every week. You can do it once a month. But this is just some really good stuff. If your birds start to look a little sluggish and start to kind of drag around and everything, and they're not being like chicks should be, add a little bit of that in there. You can get this at most co-ops. Not all co-ops carry them, but most co-ops carry them. You can order it off of game fowl websites. You can get it off of places like that. It's perfect. I mean, it's really awesome, and it works. You know, it works for just about every type of bird that you can imagine. So that's really good to use. The next thing I want to talk about is your vaccinations. This in this bottle right here is a pox vaccination. I don't like pox. A lot of people, you know, they don't worry about vaccinating their chicks or anything like that. The pox vaccination covers several different problems, but pox is one of the ones that I worry about the most with my chicks. If a chick gets pox, it can kill them. It can end them pretty fast. I mean, they'll start to get real sluggish, they'll stop drinking, then they'll stop eating, they'll get really skinny, and they'll die. How you want to give this is you want to wait till they're about 6 weeks old. And once they're about 6 weeks old, you're going to get about a 22 gauge needle. You know, that's kind of like what people give whatever you call that stuff for diabetics. It's like a diabetic needle. You get you some small needles. You can get them. I believe Co-op might sell them. I'm not exactly sure. Tractor Supply, I think, sells them. But you're going to have to get a very small needle, because remember, these are chicks. If you run a needle deep into their breast, you can puncture a lung, you can puncture their heart, you can hit something that's very bad, and it'll kill them. When you're giving your vaccinations, the best 2 places I can possibly tell you is give it behind the neck, or you can give it in the leg. They don't got much meat on their leg. You do not want to push that needle in too deep. Push it in just barely enough to get it in there, and then inject it, pull it out, rub it, and put the chick down. Alright guys, that covers up the video. We've covered everything that I can possibly think of, you know, on the spot, and I hope the video was insightful, informative, resourceful. I hope it helped with any endeavors that you all have. You know, I know that there's going to be, you know, classrooms watching this, trying to, you know, hatch eggs for a science experiment, or, you know, everything from that all the way to the Philippines of people that ordered an incubator from the U.S. So, I mean, it's a very wide video for everybody. It's a very common thing. How do you hatch eggs? How do you raise chicks? That covers so many different categories, I can't even tell you. I mean, you're looking at ducks all the way to turkeys. I mean, it's a very wide thing. Each different egg has a different time that it hatches. Takes longer for some eggs than others. But the thing is the raising of them is virtually the same. Take care of them. Watch your temperatures on your incubators. Watch your hydration and your humidity levels. Keep an eye on how many times you turn them, how many times you turn your eggs. You want to turn those eggs. Turn them, turn them, turn them, turn them, turn them. The more you turn them, the healthier the chicks are going to be when they come out. The hen does not turn her eggs twice a day. She will turn them as many times as she feels the need to. Every time she picks up her feet and moves, she's turning eggs. So Anyway, this has been Wes with Still Real Gamefowl. If you have any questions at all, feel free to email me at YouTube or on my Facebook at Still Real Gamefowl. And I hope you all have a great day. I hope this was very helpful and resourceful. And I'll see you all in the next video.